Hey, this is Adam and Jason. I just got off from work today. I work in a cram school in Taiwan, teaching children from 2nd grade to 6th grade. I teach them English. And today we had a test. My 6th graders had a test. And I think they did pretty well on the test. It was fairly difficult. It included present perfect continuous. So,
you want to talk about the students today and how wealthy the parents are in Japan.
Oh, yes. Jubei, I teach in Jubei. Hello. Thank you for watching. I teach English in Jubei, Taiwan. And Jubei is kind of like a suburb of Hsinchu City. And a lot of wealthy people live in Jubei. The property values have gone up quite a bit here, and also they're building new houses all the time around here.
Pay is even higher.
And yes, you can usually get higher hourly pay in Jubei than some other places in Taiwan. Yeah, we just saw a bright pink Tesla go across the road in front of us. So yeah, I just got off from work teaching English to 6th graders today, and we had a test. They did pretty well on that. The weather is much better than it was earlier. It was cloudy before, and now the sun has come out, and it looks like a beautiful afternoon in Jubei. Thank you for watching.
They can tell them they can ask any question.
Yeah, you can ask any question. I don't speak Chinese, but Jason does. He's right next to me, so I don't read Chinese. So yeah, yesterday I was talking about living in Taiwan and highlighting some of the benefits of living in Taiwan for a foreigner from the U.S. like me. And I mentioned that healthcare is very good and affordable. The people are very nice. And also, we don't have the problem with gun violence in Taiwan that some other countries have, like the USA. The violent crime rate is relatively low here.
Are you saying Taiwan is relatively safer place?
Yes, definitely. I have never felt unsafe in Taiwan. And I've talked to many people who said the same thing, that, you know, no matter what time, what hour of the night it is, they feel safe in Taiwan. Okay, someone said something, I think, in Chinese. We're coming to a stop sign so Jason can read. Do you see that?
He's inviting you to join his live stream.
Oh, okay. Someone inviting me to join a live stream. I'm kind of new to streaming. I don't do it much. So yeah, there are a lot of benefits to living in Taiwan. Right now, there is some consternation between Taiwan and China. China is trying to claim Taiwan as its territory, and they have threatened to use force to take over Taiwan. But as I said in the last live stream, the People's Republic of China has never had control of Taiwan, ever. And that's a fact. You can look it up as long as you have access to the internet.
China thinks that Taiwan is, they claim that Taiwan is not a country, which is not true.
Right. Taiwan is a country, even though it is not recognized as such by a majority of the countries in the world. It meets all of the qualifications for a country. It has its own government, which is democratically elected. It has its own laws that are enforced by its own law enforcement agents. It has de facto embassies in other countries, even though they're not called embassies. They're called Taipei Economic TECO offices. But they perform the same functions as an embassy.
You want to talk about how we get married in Taiwan?
Okay. So first, my partner and I got married in America. My partner Jason and I got married in America in 2015, just a few months after same-sex marriage became legal in America. And then for some reason we kind of waited for a while to register in Taiwan. Well, for a while, up until what, 2018, it wasn't legal in Taiwan?
Yeah, kind of vague, you know. So we were kind of lucky that actually, you know, the clerk in the court told me that they just, you know, revised the law.
Right.
But to facilitate gay marriage, you need to help them, you know, go the whole process go more smoothly.
Yeah, the afternoon sun is shining right in my eyes right now. So I think it was a court case, and someone took the case to court to argue that same-sex couples should be afforded the same marriage rights as opposite-sex couples. And the court ruled that same-sex couples should be allowed to marry in Taiwan, and it gave the legislature a deadline to pass a law to allow gay people to marry. And I think that happened in 2018, if I'm not mistaken.
We have enjoyed a lot of benefits recently. Like, you know, it's actually very powerful to get married in Taiwan. The law protects gay couples.
Yeah, that's one of the benefits of living in a democracy. If the people are dissatisfied with the laws, they can change them. And so that's what happened with same-sex marriage. The laws changed, and right now Taiwan is probably the most welcoming country in Asia for same-sex couples.
People are so nice, you know. They were so polite when we got registered.
Well, I've never really been in the closet in Taiwan.
They
back when
us, and there was like a symbol, you know, like a sign that we can stand in front of it.
Right. So when Jason and I went to the household registration office here, that's really like the kind of like the county clerk in a U.S. County. But in Taiwan, you have to register your household. And of course, your household registration changes when you get married. And so we went to the household registration office to register our marriage, and they were very welcoming and amenable. They helped us with the paperwork, and also there was a place for us to take a picture. They had like a display where you could take a wedding photo if you're eloping, which is kind of what we were doing. But we didn't really want to have a formal ceremony because we've been together for so long. We've been together since April 2001. So 22 years, over 22 years we've been together. So, I mean, it's not like we just suddenly decided to get married or anything.
How many people?
Hard to tell. The sunlight is blinding me. So, anyway, Taiwan is very friendly to gay people right now, and gay people are afforded the same rights as same-sex couples. I've even started to see more same-sex couples holding hands on the street and hugging each other and kissing in public. And I recently read that the majority of Taiwanese now support same-sex marriage. So it has the popular support of the people in Taiwan.
And you know, moreover, they just open. That's the 3 reading, right? The gay couple can adopt kids now.
Right. Just last week, the government passed a law stating that same-sex couples can adopt children. So that was an oversight. Back in 2018, they made a same-sex marriage legal, but it was not legal for same-sex couples to adopt. as a couple. So they just rectified that error, and same-sex couples can adopt children now. I'm getting to the age to where I'm a little too old to adopt, probably.
Yeah.
I don't want to be grandpa hobbling down the aisle when my child gets married. But it was one of those things that when I was younger, I kind of wanted to adopt a child to raise and instill my values in. Jason is paying more attention to the streaming than driving, I'm afraid.
No, actually, they just stopped. I have to wait for them.
Okay.
It's a long line.
Getting back to the situation between Taiwan and China, back in 2008, Ma Ying-jeou of the KMT party, or the Kuomintang party, was elected president of Taiwan. And relationships between Taiwan and China thawed a little bit. And there was a trade agreement signed, the TPP I forget the name of it. But anyway, there was a trade agreement between Taiwan and China, and things kind of thawed a bit.
It incurred how do you call that? Chrysanthemum activity?
No, you're thinking about the sunflower movement.
Sunflower.
Okay, so some Taiwanese thought that Taiwan was getting a little too close to China, that Taiwan was putting its eggs in one basket by trading so closely with China. They thought that Taiwan should diversify and not do most of its trade with China. And most of the people in this movement, it was called the Sunflower Movement, were young people in university. And they occupied the legislature for a while. I forget how many days.
A couple of days, 3 days.
Couple of days. The government had been thinking about signing another trade pact with China, the Taiwanese government, but they killed the bill, or put a stop to it, after the sunflower protests.
I think it was the right move, because nowadays the trend of the world is to isolate China. So if we get too close to China,
well, I think the sunflower movement predated this isolation of China, economic isolation, and these tariffs on Chinese goods. I think the sunflower movement predated that, because the university students thought that, and rightfully so, that it would be wrong to trade exclusively with China when China is ostensibly the enemy of Taiwan, as long as it claims Taiwan as its territory. And then after China started cracking down on protests in Hong Kong, the umbrella movement in Hong Kong, and there was another protest. The Taiwanese people started to see, hey, wait a minute. We don't want one country, two systems, because it's not really one country, two systems. In the case of Hong Kong, it's really one country, one country, one system.
Nail on the coffin, like
right. Hong Kong was really the nail in the coffin for peaceful reunification between Taiwan and China, because the Taiwanese people saw that they could no longer protest against the government in Hong Kong, and it was no longer democratic. Only people who were pre-approved by Beijing could be elected in Hong Kong. So the Taiwanese people don't want that, and the polls bear that out. There have been several polls done that show that the Taiwanese people do not want to unify with China. They don't want to give up the freedom that they've gained since the end of martial law in 1987, and also the democratic elections of legislators and presidents starting in 1996, they don't want to give those things up. And they won't give those things up without a fight. So a peaceful reunification on China's terms is out of the question. Nobody wants war either, but they definitely don't want to give up the freedom that they have in Taiwan. And so that's led us to this situation. In 2016, the people elected Tsai Ing-wen, who is the current president of Taiwan. She was reelected for a second term in 2020. And since she was elected president, Beijing has cut off communications with Taiwan. They've totally cut off official communications, which is bad, especially with two countries who are enemies. No communication can lead to misunderstandings. And really, Beijing is to blame for the lack of communication. China is to blame, the CCP, the Chinese government. They are the ones who have said, you know, we will not communicate with this democratically elected president. And it's basically because they don't like her. She is part of the Green Party, the DPP, who in the past, some of them have advocated for independence, complete independence. And so Beijing is acting like a kid who's decided to take his toys home and cut off communications with another kid because they don't want to share. So that's the point we're at right now. The problem for the rest of the world is Taiwan makes the majority of the advanced semiconductors used in today's smartphones and computers around the world.
You think America is doing the right thing by banning, giving them a penalty for not importing any high-tech phones?
The U.S. has been trying to cut off China's access to these high-tech computer chips. Now that people have argued that will just push China to develop its own IC foundries even further. But I think they're still several years away from being at the level of Taiwan. But that's neither here nor there. It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do to put sanctions on China because they are threatening a peaceful democratic neighbor with the use of military force. They have threatened to use military force to take control of Taiwan. And this is not what the Taiwanese people want. Ask yourself this question. If you live in another country, would you want China to take over your government and run things for your country? I would guess the majority of you would say no, especially after what's happened in Hong Kong and the way that they treated their own citizens during the COVID lockdowns in China. So that's where Taiwan is right now.
And do you think Taiwan will become second Hong Kong?
I don't think it will. I don't think Taiwan will become a second Hong Kong, and here's the reason why. They're totally different situations. Hong Kong was leased by the UK for a period of 100 years, which ended in 1997. And there was really no legal framework for the UK to keep control of Hong Kong. The lease was up. They returned it to China. The situation with Taiwan is totally different. Taiwan was never ruled by the People's Republic of China, and it was not even really completely ruled even under the old Chinese dynasties. The Chinese dynasties didn't even control Taiwan. Taiwan has been invaded and several times over the course of history by different people, the Dutch, the Japanese, and it's been controlled by various different people. Right now, it is controlled by the people of Taiwan and the Taiwanese government, and they don't want to be part of China. So you've got a country, there is no legal basis for the current government of China to claim Taiwan. The only way they might be able to claim it is to say, we had a civil war, the civil war is not finished, and then, take control by force. But the problem with that is the two parties, only one of the two parties in the Chinese Civil War still exists. The Kuomintang of today is not the Kuomintang that fought the Communist Party in China back during the Chinese Civil War. So the two entities don't even exist as they did before. And China would have to take Taiwan by force. The problem with that is the U.S. has been increasingly clear that they would not allow China to take Taiwan by force without the U.S. reacting. And if the U.S. gets involved, the U.S. would be flying sorties out of South Korea and Japan and Guam. South Korea and Japan would probably face some backlash from China because, some of these missions will be flown out of their countries, and then they would get caught up in the war. And then mutual defense treaties would be triggered, and we would have a world war on our hands. And I'm hoping that China is rational enough to see that this could very easily become a world war, bigger than any world war in the past, killing billions of people.
I think Ukraine is the best example we can learn from.
Right. Russia thought it would be easy to take Ukraine, and Russia did not have a claim to Ukraine. Ukraine had been independent since 1991, and it had no claim to Ukraine. It tried to say it was a special defense operation to free the citizens of the country from a corrupt government, but everyone knows that's a lie.
They just want to find
So yeah, that is the good thing about the internet. The internet can spread a lot of false information, and social media can spread a lot of false information, but it can also be used to spread the truth. And people have seen the truth from Ukraine. They have seen citizens being killed, public buildings being bombed like schools, and they know that these are war crimes, and there's nothing Russia can do to cover this up. But Taiwan needs to be careful. Taiwan is an island, and if Taiwan doesn't have a land pathway to connect to another country's internet, if China were to sever the internet cables connecting Taiwan, Taiwan would have a difficult time getting information out. They could use satellites, but it's possible China could use radio interference to interfere with satellite communication. So that's one worry about Taiwan. They need to strengthen their alternative communication sources, and I think the Ministry of Digital Affairs, MODA, has been established and is working on this at the moment. They're trying to establish secondary communication networks and tertiary communication networks in the event of war so that they can get the information out and expose what happens during wartime.
So, any questions? Did I answer you any questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I can recommend it for the Taiwan.
Okay, so thank you for watching, and
we'll come back to see you soon.
And keep Taiwan in your thoughts and fight for Taiwan as much as you can. Taiwan is a free nation, a free country. The people are kind, and they want to keep their hard-earned freedom. They do not want to be part of China.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, see you soon.
See you. Bye-bye.
I want to get some
Which one?
Did you close it?
No?
It's okay.
Left or right?
Yeah.